the narrative.
Hey everybody, welcome to an episode of Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul Murphy, your host for the Lost Souls podcast. I'm joined tonight by Chris Morgan.
We can do it.
And Josh Ginn.
Hey, welcome back.
Yeah, man. Welcome you back, man. Long-time listeners of the show might remember you from, doing some spots with us occasionally. Then you went away to the other side of the world.
Yeah, literally been in Japan in my hobby dojo for the last 2.5, almost 3 years, working on stuff. Not really able to podcast due to the time difference being, opposite exactly 13 hours. So, but it's good to be back.
Dude, well, welcome back to the country and the show.
Thank you.
I got some cool stuff to talk about this week. In the middle of this show, I've got a segment to insert from Martin Meyer, who is one of the TOs of the Alliance Open in the Netherlands. So it's really cool to get that world perspective on things and see how things are going on in other places of the world. So, we are a multinational show, I guess.
Technically, the internet goes around the world, so yes.
And into space. Give it a few years, it'll reach the Mars rover.
Interstellar show. So a lot of news around the contrast paints that we've seen. I guess at Warhammer Fest, what it was, and then they had a bunch of painters in at the Games Workshop HQ to sample and try the contrast paints themselves. So it's kind of getting out there in the wild. I'm excited about it. As someone who paints miniatures for other people, sometimes I'm kind of looking for shortcuts and also my own miniatures. I'm kind of really pumped about if I can paint 40 to 60 pink horrors in a weekend. I mean, sign me up, man. Give me these paints.
Yeah, no, I'm as a person who's staring down the barrel of 80 skeletons for Age of Sigmar and then another 30 Graveguard, I'm definitely looking forward to trying this out as a new approach to painting. So, I've got the airbrush, I've got layers, I've got, wet blending, I've done all that kind of stuff. But let's be honest, that's 110 models I'm looking at right there, and I'm not trying to get it done.
Yeah, it sounds like you're dying your best death right there.
Yeah, well, when you're in love with the idea of a horde of skeletons, and then when you actually assemble it over the course of 3 years, and then it's time to paint it, you're just like, it's another story.
Well, when you got like even orcs and stuff, now it looks like the best results do come from a mixture of techniques. So the same thing that these things just will become a tool in a painter's toolbox. And it seems like the best results are still going to be, a careful application of these things.
I don't know. There's 34 of these things. So you got to figure that, you'll be able to mix them, blend them, fade them. There'll be all kinds of different stuff once you get used to I don't know if they're like an oil wash, or you'll be mixing them with secret, ingredients, but they're going to dovetail nicely into the Apocalypse release too. So, GW's got to be thinking, hey, we get this mass painting product out there and then we can release these mass kits for Apocalypse.
That's a great idea. I don't know because I haven't messed with them myself yet, but it does seem like the sweet science or the secret sauce is to use the contrast medium, very similar to the Lamia medium on the layer paint side. Or on the acrylic paint side.
Absolutely.
And that water doesn't do, it doesn't give, it messes with the compounds a little bit. Probably in the same way that it does for regular paint or airbrush paints. So you can get by with using water, but it seems like to get the air quote best results is to use the medium. But again, I've not done one stroke with these paints yet. So,
yeah.
Just looking at what other people do.
So I'm no expert clearly because I don't have them in my hands, but I'm still tracking that they're an acrylic. So there's only so many mediums you can mix into an acrylic to get, what we're talking about. It's, either an airbrush, like a flow improver or a glaze medium or any of those kind of things. So once they get in the hands of the greater community, the internet will come alive with hacks and secret techniques and, hey, look what I did. And I think we're all going to benefit from a huge wealth of knowledge really quick.
I think there's some of the initial critiques where I don't want to have to use special primer. I don't want to have to use a special medium. I'm not sure that you have to. And we've even seen videos out there that say that, they're putting it over metallics. And getting that kind of that Alpha Legion or pre-Heresy Thousand Suns look to them, that kind of metallic.
Yeah, I love that look.
Yeah,
yeah.
We're seeing people do that. So.
Those videos are definitely what I like to think of is they're queuing in on the people that are never going to paint their stuff, so that I, as someone who wants to at least put painted models on the table before I play with them. I don't have to say hobby shame my opponent, but it gives them a method to at least make the game fun for both of us because it stinks when the other person opposite the table has gray or resin or just blank. And you're like, come on, man, you've had that stuff for months.
Yeah.
Granted, my 110 skeletons may not be Golden Demon quality, but like, come on, bro, you can get there.
Well, on the sweaty tryhard power gamer side, I chase sometimes the meta to some degree. If I can't get out in front of it, if you can't beat them, join them, I mean, there's absolutely no shame in that. But sometimes I'm using a couple of units that I may not necessarily have a passion for. And if I can get those up to a hobby standard pretty quickly, that's going to make it easier for me and less of a tax on my time and mental stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The thing I'm most excited to use it for is probably terrain. I have the hardest time motivating myself to paint terrain.
Terrain's a great example. Some of these buildings and things, now the kits are getting better every release, every kits are getting better, but it's hard to sit down and say, I'm going to put 15 hours into the one side of this building.
Yeah, absolutely. Like terrain is in a weird place right now with the kit, the quality and the size of the kits they've been releasing. It's almost at the point where the terrain has exceeded the size of the pots of paint. So this, once they release the airbrush foundation primers, clearly these add-on paints to highlight or to add depth to those might be the answer that we're all kind of talking about right now.
Yeah, something in our chat that we have, Ricky, hopefully be back next week, was mentioning like things on like leaves, like even some things that are the organic side of stuff that you might not want to spend a whole lot of time painting. You might be able to get a cool effect out of these contrast paints.
I think everything from, ghouls to skeletons to anything organic is going to have a real nice look to it, relatively speaking, pretty fast.
I just finished 20 ghouls for a buddy of mine, and I put the picture up on Twitter or whatever, the first thing someone said is that the new contrast paints? Like, it's a Thonian camo shade.
Just getting excited there.
Yeah. It's
just tell him yes. Just say yes next time.
Well, but the camo shade, the way I use the camo shade on the ghouls is, I think seems to be the way that these contrast paints work. I use the Celestia gray as the primer and then just put the camo shade on it and it does its magic. So,
definitely an analogous technique for sure.
But, again, real curious. I want to get the pink and the bright blue immediately, and I want to see what I can do to bang out some horrors.
Not that I don't know what the fate of the Heresy is right now, but when I saw those metallics and I saw that the Alpha Legion, the green blue over metal, it just looked like it was like a Codal green shade or green shade away from being, Sons of Horus. And I just kind of raised an eyebrow because and they're also re-releasing, I heard, the Forge World airbrush paints at the same time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
that's true. That's good news for a lot of people who are very, very sad.
I hope I didn't start a rumor, but that's what I'd read that somewhere on the tubes.
No, I will confirm that because I know some people would be very excited about that. From what I understand, they're opening up a lot more space because they've got a new warehouse that they're getting opened up. So we might see some of those old discontinued kits come back. I don't know, but it would be nice. There's certainly a lot of those things that people are still wanting to get their hands on.
Yeah, that'd be neat. I mean, this is just stuff, anything that, even if this is just a perception thing that makes people think it's easier to get their stuff on the table, that means they'll try.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big bonus. I do think that, again, I saw a picture of a blue horror floating around the internet use the contrast paints, and people are like, oh man, is that just the contrast paint on there? He's like, no, it's this color contrast in a 4-to-1 mixture with the medium and then highlighted up in the normal way that you would highlight a model.
Yeah. But that's awesome.
But if you could save, let's say you save 2 steps in your painting process. I mean, that's how many hours does that equate to over the life of your army? And maybe that's the barrier that gets people in. Maybe the barrier is they don't ever want to feel like they've got to pre-shade and highlight or whatever, and then they can just put one coat on and it actually does do what it's supposed to do. I mean, whatever the barrier is. Yeah, it's really cool that they're releasing products that reduce that. And then, to your point a minute or two ago, Josh, is that this one of the secondary benefits is that you have more painted armies versus painted armies, in hobby stores all around the world.
Which only helps the hobby grow just in general, obviously, because it's just better.
Yeah. I've said
before anyone picks up a rule book, before anyone reads anything about the game or what's good or whatever, what they're seeing is what's on the tables, what are people playing with, and what looks cool. Painted models will sell more models than unpainted models.
It encourages people to come to your events. I mean, I've said it. I'll say it again. One of the primary ways to help an event grow is the stories that people tell when they leave, and a lot of those stories are around, I saw the coolest models, I saw the greatest display, I saw this, whatever, and then it helps culture craft the event for you.
Yeah, I also like the inner grognard in me likes a lot of the throwback paint names, like they got Snakebite Leather on there and some other cute stuff like that. That's kind of cool.
I can't remember the name of the tutorial that I was watching, because I'm a consumer of content, just as much as anybody. Especially painting tutorials, I look and I find, I take a little bit from here and there and find things that I think I can replicate. And the dude said he painted a Death Guard miniature. Now here, this is one of those things. I'm not going to take the contrast paint and paint a Blood Angel with it, and then that's not going to be my new standard. That's just not, because I already have a Blood Angel army, and I've been working on this red technique for longer than I care to mention.
Decades.
Yeah.
In my case, decades at least.
Same with the Death Guards, same with some other things. I'm not going to shift to a new way of doing it and repaint the whole army. That's just probably not going to happen. But for this guy's Death Guard, he said he painted in Snakebite Leather, the new one, the new contrast paint, into the recesses. And then before it was completely dry, he went over the whole model with a green, and it basically magically made a Death Guard miniature. That's about the best way to describe it.
I mean, Death Guard's one of those armies that just lends itself perfectly to exactly what you're talking about. I mean, there's just...
Yeah, the only thing faster would be picking your nose.
Hey,
I think that's about it.
It's gotta be style. But say you want to start a Tyranids army and you don't want to paint 150 Hormagaunts.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's going to become the way people paint those types of models, probably.
Super jazzed. I think the pre-orders for that go up next Saturday, and then you can get it in your hands the Saturday after that. I will be there in line.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to have whole sets for sale. I know that the store nearest to me is going to have a whole bunch of, they've just been assembling en masse a lot of the demo models, the Primaris and the
Stormcast?
Retributor, Stormcast guy, in anticipation of people wanting to come in and just sit down and play with them. So it's good news.
Yeah, that is. I think anything that removes those barriers, same way. I think it's going to be as electrifying as Nolan Oil was originally.
Another way to think of it is, there are people out there who don't want to buy an airbrush. They don't want to buy a compressor. They don't want to have to learn needle control, or their hands don't, maybe it's just not for them, right? It's not a skill that they want to improve. And so something like this, where you buy the rattle can, you hit the models, I'm not going to say dip them, but you one thin coat or one coat and then progress to the detail work. I mean, that's going to appeal to people who just don't want to have to become, an online airbrush artist.
It's a good point. Good point. Bay Area Open was this past weekend, and then so we can jump to some tournament stuff. Hope you guys don't mind.
Go ahead, hit it.
We don't talk tournaments on the show. What are you talking about?
Well, good friend of the show, Jeff Robinson, ended up winning, and he in the championship game, he actually beat Jim Vessel, who we had on the show very recently for his, just basically tearing up the tournament scene with his innovative list and success and hard playing. I mean, the dude is an awesome player, so it was really cool to see two awesome players battling it out in the last round with what I consider somewhat unconventional list, and that got me thinking, Jeff's list, had a lot of Custodes in it. And then it had a bunch of stuff that kind of, the Imperial stuff that makes the Imperium work. The extra command points from Guard, and then he sprinkled in an Assassin. In the most recent FAQ, it's now 2 command points to be able to deploy an Assassin operative into your army without having to take a special detachment for it. What's it called? Something operative or whatever, the stratagem.
Yeah, for the assassin.
You burn 2 points. You set aside 85 points in your army. During the start of the game, you can add any assassin you want to your army. I've been doing this. I'm testing for things like the ATC, and then testing for things for the Master City 40k tournament coming up in June, which is pretty novel concept. It's 5 rounds in one day in Augusta, Georgia. That's why it's called the Master City tournament. Also part of the Armageddon series. I'm not going to go off on the spiel about it right now, but it's put on by some great folks, and I'm going to be putting into effect a lot of things I'm talking about right now, including this assassin.
Oh, so you're going to go Imperial for this one, huh?
Yeah, I think that's going to be my role on the ATC team is holding down that kind of Imperial soup type stuff, which is probably going to be a lot of guard, a lot of things we've been talking about, and an assassin, because why not?
So when you say guard, are you thinking primarily armor? Like what's your, I know we're getting a little probably broad when you talk the, like, you know, ITC or not ITC, but the team builds. You doing like more of an armor? You doing like a knock? You doing the Ogren? You running your super heavies? There's CIG is pretty broad.
I've gone a couple different ways with the testing. I've tested 3 super heavies, which actually performed really well. It was 2 Stormlords and a Shadow Sword. And then because the Stormlords had that big fat unit capacity, you can cram so many people inside. So you basically create a 3-drop army list, which gives you that 60-something% chance to go first most of the time. I don't think anyone's going to beat you on a 3-drop list.
Yeah, no, that's a big deal. Like, I think that there's probably people who are crafting not only lists to try to go first, but like you're saying, like definitely hit that alpha strike and still be able to take a punch. So that's interesting.
With the Baneblade chassis, anything that can shoot while it's still locked in combat or move out and then shoot and charge some other way, that's like a skill equalizer. Like, I don't have to be as good as you at moving. I can just do what I want. You know? And I'm not saying that I necessarily need that, but in a tournament where fatigue could be, or playing a certain role is a factor, when you've got all these other things that are contributing to what your brain is thinking about, you know, building in these little energy saving cheats for yourself might be beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially over the course of a long event like that.
Yeah, you play over 3 days.
I know we kind of moved on a little bit, but I don't know if you took a peek at any of the top 8 lists for the BAO. How do you think that do you think any of those are going to be shifting anything in the future? I mean, the Tau list had the triple Riptides, and then obviously the Demon list is still kind of the Demon list, but the Eldar list had some spice to it with all the jet bike stuff, the Warlocks.
Yeah, I think anytime that you see these type of lists win a tournament, you're going to see some copycat stuff. Like Jim too. Like Jim said, he just in the spot that we had together, he said he's been fielding a lot of questions about people trying to figure out how his list works while they're playing it. But as far as like shifting the meta goes, that's so hard to say because of the way the ITC missions work. I feel like that some of the lists in that bracket in that tournament were an anomaly.
Really?
What do you feel though?
Now, since I've been back, I haven't had a chance to play very much ITC stuff. I've been doing a lot of narrative things and just kind of working on my stuff as my household goods arrive. But just paying attention to what I hear and listening to other shows and like consuming content, like you're saying, like I gotta be honest, I was pretty surprised when I saw the 3 Riptide battle suits pop up as a list. I honestly, and it's maybe a little bit overly specific to answer your question, I thought the Tau were going to end up back in the 9 broadsides with missiles and just heavy weights of fire. So to see the 3 Riptides like that, it was interesting to me.
That's why I say I think they're an anomaly. I'm not sure that they're going to be what the next big thing is, but I think that, I mean, they obviously proved they could do well.
I'm just really curious how the Warlock on Skyrunners with that many seeing spears and the twin shirking catapults, I mean, clear mobility, clear ability to punch things, but in my mind, I don't see the resiliency of it. I guess it's the -1 to hit from the craft world and whatnot, and it's got some Rangers holding the ground, and the Crimson Hunter Exarchs, maybe it just pounces on you and just starts removing you off the board before you have a chance. If somebody would have bet me $1 that would have gotten top 8, somebody would have my $1 right now because I wouldn't have. I'd have been like snicker.
Well,
but,
I mean,
shows what I know.
You do get to kind of choose your fate a little bit in the ITC missions, and so you can some of the things that you can choose, you're almost in complete control of. So things like recon behind it, the secondaries. And so if you can build a list that goes into most games thinking you're going to get those 12 points, like automatically, then you're probably on the right track. You're talking about meta shifting.
Yeah. And I mean, not to go say all the way down, but I mean, scrolling down, you look at 7th place, even with the amount of Hell Drakes and just the Hellforged stuff going on, the Lord of Discordance and all that. Like that's something I thought. I'm glad to see it made the top 8. I'm glad to see it put some viability to what everyone was thinking about the Lord of Discordant, Hellforged Dreadnought, Contemptors, doing his tricks with the purge so he can shoot into combat, stuff like that. The Doradios. There's lots of surprisingly shooty chaos lists. There were probably some people who rocked up to the table early on in that tournament and kind of snickered and thought they were going to pick up some wins on this stuff, and then probably went and ate a Snickers. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So no, it's good. Man, good for them. Congratulations to all those guys who made the top 8, especially those of you who really did your homework, cracked open those books, and started doing out the math and thinking, like you're saying, through the secondary, tertiary objectives, and really getting out there and testing your list, and it showed in your prep for the BAO. So that's good job with all you guys out there. Appreciate that.
That was a tough field. I mean, that was a very tough field. And to see some of the names, that consistently did really well. Not necessarily a surprise, but still it was not an easy road for them.
Definitely a deep talent pool out there. I bet you could probably say top, 25, or maybe a couple rolls away from pulling it themselves. I bet there was a lot of close games.
Kind of on the other side of it, where we're talking about with putting that assassin in your list. Why, if you're playing Imperial, why wouldn't you? You're basically getting a free detachment out of it for the investment of the command points but you're not sacrificing the ability to take another detachment to gain those command points that you would then burn on the assassin.
No, yeah. I mean, the fact that you don't have to pick the assassin before the game, and you literally have effectively a sideboard for 2 CP. I mean, I can't see a lot of downsides in that. And, there may be a game where you just didn't even need an assassin, but, there's not one particular hole that it's filling, but it's still a quality model that you can use in any game. Why wouldn't you do it?
The sniper meta is real. You see that, like even in one of these, and one of these guard lists that I'm thinking about, with one of the Stormlords in it, is placing, a bunch of snipers in it and allowing them to basically shoot with impunity out of the back of that thing until all the characters are dead.
Yeah. Going with that, what assassin do you tend to find yourself using more often than not then?
I'm thinking that it's tough because, they all have their uses. The weakest one in my opinion right now is the Eversor. But still, in my test games, I've probably tried to go with the Eversor in half, because he does get that 3d6 charge. And so if you feel like you can pick up a lot of the things, and there's a lot of line of sight blocking terrain people could be hiding from you, then you just want, needle in an Eversor back there and have him do some work.
So I guess it's more of an abstract question then to follow that up with would be, so what else could you possibly take in your Imperial list? And this is obviously going to be different for every person answering this out there, that you would need the 2 CP4s, and is better for 85 points. Yeah. And you could argue, even if it wasn't, if there wasn't even a CP requirement to it, and they were just like a mini dex, and you could force org them and shoehorn them in, would people still take them?
I think that there's probably especially if you're playing Marines or something, to where you might not fill out your 3 detachments. You're probably just looking at a battalion and a vanguard or something like that.
Yeah.
So that sounds about right.
My question wasn't too clean. It was probably, not just necessarily what's better than, but, is that specific function or gap filler to a shortage in your list, able to be taken in a more efficient way. And right now, I think that's the niche they fill, is that they do it better than what's in those books.
Yeah, you're getting something, you're getting an upside and the flexibility in that sideboard you're talking about without any of the tax. Like, I don't have to take an HQ or 2 HQs or something or whatever to make that thing work. Those 2 CP don't even factor into your strategy once you've decided you're going to take the assassin in your list. Those are already burnt. It's spent money, essentially. And so you only have to deal with then what type is the best assassin for you at the time. And I think you're going to find people kind of defaulting most likely to the Vindicare to be able to snipe the characters, get rid of auras, get rid of buffs, get rid of certain things that are problematic. Being able to shoot twice if he kills a character. He's a phenomenal choice right now. You've also got the Calexis, which if you're playing against a Psyker heavy army. Now, I think that's probably the third out of the fourth choice. But the Calidus, if you feel like you need to tax, kind of bleed your opponent for command points early, even things like an Eldar. So if the Eldar list, they're not rocking a ton of CPs. And so if you can find a way to bleed them, get rid of, basically cut their command points in half. I'm just not in half is a strong word, but to make them spend additional command points, then towards that back half of the game, they're going to have a lot less to spend on the lightning fast reactions and the fire and fades and that kind of garbage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're imposing your will in yet another phase of the game, and whether or not it's stated on the table, it's still a factor that they may not be prepared for and could hit them strategically in a point during the game when they needed to be doing something differently and they were unprepared for it, and you could seize on it. So, yeah, absolutely.
Or if they're accustomed to having their burn rate be X, and then they may overcommit, and I think that Vindicator's choice number 1, Calidus is choice number 2, if I were to rank them, and then Calexis, and then Eversor. So if you find, my advice then is if you're taking this strategy and you're going to take an assassin in there and you find yourself feeling like you want to take an Eversor, remember that he's 4th on the list and really, understand why you're ruling out the other 3.
Right, exactly. So when you're sitting there at the table, just look at the set. Paul told me 1, 2, 3, 4, and then roll a D4 and just put it out there. You'll be all right. This
is from experience. This is the Eversor
and then blame him if it doesn't work. Remember, you just
absolutely.
I love the Eversor model. That's why I think that's probably why I'm drawn to it. And I'm not talking about the newer one. The new one's great, but I like that one that's got he's holding the head out. He's got the dagger off of the side and the gun on his back. I think that's an awesome model. And it probably influences my choice of what I'm actually taking on the table. But power level wise, I'm going the other way.
I never picked up the kill team box or the one that had all the assassins in it. That was something I always, was upset about. And
the execution force?
Yeah, that's the one. And so I'm behind. I'm remiss. But no, I like them all model wise. I think they're killer. Let's be honest, GW's just killing it right now when it comes to models.
Let's take a quick break. I'm going to have that segment with Martin about the Alliance Open. Then we'll come back with these guys and talk about some more stuff.
Sounds good.
See you in a minute.
FTN is brought to you by Discount Games Inc. Please visit them at www.discountgamesinc.com. And don't forget to ask Jay about ways to save even more on your hobby projects.
Hey everybody, welcome to a community spotlight segment of Forge Narrative. My name is Paul, your host. I'm joined today by Martin Meyer.
Hello. Great to be here.
Yo, man, thanks for coming back.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So people may remember...
It's been a while.
Yeah, people may remember hearing from you about the Alliance Open in the Netherlands.
Yes, true. It was about 9 months ago, I think, with Stefan Noordzij as well.
Yeah, but you guys are back, and you're already sold out again, so I'm a little bit late to the game.
Oh, yeah, we sold out in 4 days, actually. We sold 150 tickets in 4 days. We actually sold the first 100 in about 30 minutes. So that was a surprise to us as well.
That's a good feeling.
We kind of hyped it up, of course. We had a launch party. We gave things away for the first 10 who bought a ticket. So yeah, we're very happy to see that.
Yeah, man, that is such a good feeling. Well, I'm really glad to hear it. I mean, especially, we talk about 40K all over the world, and it's nice to see it still continuing to grow and people flocking to these tournaments and having a great time playing.
Yeah, true. One thing we kind of wanted to add up to the hype is that we think ourselves as one of the, it's not premium events, but it's more of the high-end events. We provide lunch, we provide free coffee, tea, and water throughout the day, and make sure that every table has full terrain. We even stepped over to ITC because we noticed that a lot of people asked about it, and that seemed to hit the spot with a lot of people.
Oh, wow. So people can get a whole bunch of points there with you guys.
Yeah, 150 people. I don't know how many that is. I think that's about 250 or something.
It sounds like a lot. I don't know. I don't know how many it is, but it does sound like a bunch. So this is, in case we went over pretty fast, this is the Alliance Open GT. Where can people pull it up right now on the internet so they can kind of follow along as we're talking for a couple minutes?
Okay, so they can check out alliancearmory.net. It's a Dutch page, but you can switch to English. And then at the event tickets, all events we have are on there. And you can find us on Facebook as well, but we prefer to use our own site. We'll keep everything updated on Facebook as well, but the site will be the premium place to be.
How do people get to where you are? Where is the event being held? What's the best way to get there? Because it's not just 40K stuff. So there's a couple things. I'm sure people can get on the wait list, even if they're...
Yes.
That's a long thing already. But.
No, we only have 5 people right now. So it's about 100. We had sold 150 tickets, and then people noticed that it sold out, and they haven't already checked in for the wait list. So it's only 5 people people at the moment.
Oh, that's good. Because there's going to be there's always churn.
And
there's always a little bit of churn.
Yeah, because usually there's about 10, 15 drops pre-event. So if you're on a if you put yourself on a waiting list right now, there's a big chance you can still still attend our tournament. And
you have some events other than just the 40k Grand Tournament.
Yeah, we have, at the same time, we'll be having a Warhammer Underworlds tournament. We'll be having a Lord of the Rings Grand Tournament as well. We're working on an AOS Age of Sigmar tournament as well, and a Ninth Age tournament. So that's going to be those 4 games for sure. And then we'll have some more Star Wars games as well, like Legion and Armada or X-Wing. We're not sure which games are going to be there, but we're working on it.
Yeah, you guys are booming.
Yeah, we had a plan this year to double our type of events, because we usually did 40k events, and we did an AOS tournament 2 events ago, and then last 4th of May, of course, we did a Star Wars event with Legion, Armada, and X-Wing, and we had a blast. It was awesome.
Well, tell me about where the event's actually being held. Like, what is it? A hotel? I mean, what's the venue like?
It's near Amsterdam. It's near Schiphol Airport, so it's a free shuttle bus for about 10 minutes from the airport. It's at an hotel. I think it's a 4-star hotel with fitness, with a pool, with a sauna and everything, and a good hotel, good lunch, and good breakfast. And we rent the space over there. So if you wake up 5 minutes before the tournament and you get yourself something, some milk for breakfast, you're good to go.
So and it's in a pretty happening area. Like, what's around the hotel?
It's near the highway. So it's the hotel, and then at the other side of the road there's a KFC, there's a Burger King, there's some good quality restaurants as well. And you can get there by car pretty easily. It's free parking as well, so that's quite good. And if you take the shuttle bus, to Schiphol Airport, and then you take a train, you're in about half an hour away from Amsterdam. So if you want to go out on Saturday or Friday evening, that's no problem as well.
Yeah, pretty cool. Nice amenities. This is not your first time. I mean, obviously the second time we're talking about. How long have you guys been running this type of event?
We started 2 years ago with a small RTT in Breda, so that's the southern of Holland. And it kind of kicked off from there. We bought some terrain, we bought some mats, some game mats, and we I don't know, we caught up with the hype, and we really like organizing those tournaments. I actually don't play anymore, not a lot anymore anyway, because organizing it, and I'm kind of the terrain manager of our group, so we have our own workspace now with where we build our terrain, and we have to make sure that at the GT we have 75 tables of pool quality terrain.
Oh man, yeah, you guys, yeah. I said it's really cool to get that deep into it in such a short period of time.
Yeah, we were surprised as well that it hit off in Holland so good, and that I think almost all our events. Now, we didn't all sold out, but we made sure that we had enough people that everybody wanted to come back to our events.
Yeah, that's nice. What are the dates?
For the GT, it's going to be the 24th and 25th and 26th of November. And then in September we'll have a doubles tournament, and then next year we don't know the dates yet, but it's going to be the 24th to 26th of November. On the Friday night there will be a free Friday night gaming night, so everybody can just come back and come to us and relax, play a little game. We have board games with us. We'll make sure that there's enough tables for everyone to play a game of 40k, or even maybe try Kill Team or whatever, and make sure that everybody's going to have a good time.
I like that community-minded kind of focus on things.
Yeah, we as a tournament organizer, we like to see ourselves more as hosts than as tournament organizers. We want to make sure that everybody feels good. We make sure that everybody knows where everything is, like the toilet or wherever. So we know that some people come there for the first time, and then can be kind of overwhelming seeing 120, 150 other people playing games, and you don't know what to do exactly. So that's why we really want to make sure that everybody feels good and welcome.
That's important. I mean, we always talk about how much you really do have in common with everyone when it comes there, but sometimes you just don't know how to get around, and especially if you're coming in from a foreign country. Yeah.
I actually have to come back to the date because I'm used to another date, but it's the 15th, 16th, and 17th of November. It's going to be 1 week early. We had to change for our dates. to make sure that the tournament, the hotel was available as well.
Hey, no problems. Yeah, the people can find that on the website.
Yeah, sure. That's no problem. But as we noticed that when we, after the tournament, we always send out surveys, of course, to see how everybody was enjoying it, and making sure that everybody felt at home was one of the things that stood out for us. We usually score 4.5 stars out of 5. So that's, you can see that there's still room for improvement, but
well,
overall,
I mean, you can't make everybody happy, but I think you're focusing on the right things, which is kind of a premium atmosphere for folks, a relaxed atmosphere for people to play the games that they've traveled to do, and a place to hang out. I mean, it's all community minded.
Yes, yeah, and the first time we played, we noticed when we look at the surveys that there was a few things that stood out, like people wanted to have lots of space to put their models and to have have enough room so they don't be back to back. And we just made sure that those small little tweaks to a tournament are something we listen to.
Yeah, that's great.
And the same with the lunch. The first time the word lunch was okay, but now we have a cold and a warm buffet with the juices, with yogurt, with everything you want to have as a lunch. Some people even say that they come for the lunch only and the games are a bonus. Like,
hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
That's the quality we're going for.
I dig it. So this is going to be an ITC event. Is this also going to be in BCP? Can people follow along later in the year for see how people are doing?
We have our own pairing app, actually. We have our own site. We'll be using that mainly for our events because we we went with it 2 years ago. We started with it and we just kind of went with it. It will be a full ITC, so people will see the ranking later on, but it's going to be on our own website, which will be published, of course. And the list will be on there as well. So it's not going to be like they can only see the ranking, but they can see the lists and they can see how people scored in every round. So it's kind of BCP light, if you.
Oh,
yeah.
No, that's all right. That's cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on and talking with me about it. Again, this is the Alliance Open, the November, we say 14th through the 16th.
Yeah, 15th, 16th, 17th.
15th through the 17th. We'll get the dates right eventually. It will be in the show notes, and people can follow the website, take a look at the website, and see if it's right for them. I encourage people to get on the wait list. You guys are obviously putting on a fantastic event, and it shows.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us, and for all those people listening, make sure to check out the Facebook and like it, because then you'll stay up to date, just like everybody else.
Martin, thanks for coming on, and we're in obviously wildly different time zones, so thanks for staying up late and talking with me.
Oh, that's no problem. And we'll see each other, and we'll speak to each other after the next event, and we'll just have a chat about it.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. See ya.
We're sponsored by Fermaterra. With their sturdy, lightweight and portable tables, you can make war anywhere. Please visit them at www.fermaterra.com.
Hey everybody, we are back. Still got Chris and Josh here.
Hey.
Hanging in there.
So Chris, man, Battlehaven was, I guess, now we didn't have a show last week, and I seriously apologize for that. Schedules being difficult to arrange, and then we were going to record. I actually wasn't able to record, so completely my fault on that. So here we are. I promise I will make it up to everyone.
Well, I tell you, there's no shortage of things to talk about in 40k world, so I'm sure we'll find some way to make it up to the masses. Dude, Battlehaven. Wow. What a great trip.
Yeah, tell us what it was like. So, in this, we talk about the scenic views and how just it's in an amazing place.
Yeah, I think that it's very interesting. It was the crowd this year, a lot of same faces, but also a lot of new ones too. And it was very, very cool to see some more competitive games being played as well. So normally, I mean, you just you bring them. I probably brought somewhere around like 3,500 points of Blood Angels just so I could have variety to choose from. I had a little cubby with a laser etched name on it, my name on it, so I could keep my models downstairs and keep it all in the same place and just grab what I wanted when I wanted to just get up and go. And it was a lot of fun. A lot of different types of games being played. I got a 30k demo in with somebody too, which was also a lot of fun. So, oh man, and the food was on point again. They had a I put a bunch of pictures on the Facebook page. I think people should check out, Forge Narrative on Facebook, and it's facebook.com/Forge Narrative, and just see the pictures that I put up there. Because not only was just the environment picturesque, the food was delicious. Everything was fresh made. And the tables, there were several new tables of terrain there that I hadn't seen before. They had a brand new, ship interior table space that was, it was something that, kind of like a homemade Zone Mortalis sort of thing.
Oh, nice.
And, it's weird sometimes seeing the things that people, because this was not something that was, made from, a mold. It was just scratch built. So there's stuff like connects and stuff on there that you recognize, but it fits, It's like, hey, my son plays with those. That's great terrain. Very, very interesting terrain and things to do. And there was gaming going on almost 24/7. But there were just so many different activities and things you could participate in. I attended a pretty cool conversion class done by Thomas. I think, Paul, you know Thomas Oki. Mm-hmm. And he was showing some of his tricks for using plastic art to customize miniatures and some pinning and reposing ideas. So that was really cool. Now, Thomas does a really good job, especially with Space Marines. The stock poses, you see them a lot. Sometimes you don't think about some of the nuanced ways you can change the character of a model just by, moving the wrist one way or another, or adding some space somewhere and then filling it up with green stuff or gray stuff. And then the neat trick that I didn't know before was how he used a cigarette lighter on some of the plastic art and just, flicked it on and then bent it and twisted it so that it looked like it was moving with the model. Cool. So there was hobby classes, there was gaming going on, there was great food. We watched Serenity late one night down in the theater.
Always a hit.
Yep. And that was, I think, the same night that my wife won a Firefly board game in one of the drawings that they did at dinner time. So we made out pretty good. My wife is really lucky. She's really big into dragons. She loves dragons, and she walked away with a giant Pathfinder dragon.
Oh, cool!
from one of the giveaways. So that was pretty awesome too. I mean, there was always something going on, always someone that you could roll dice with if you wanted to. And we were very well taken care of. I mean, it's embarrassing when you go to a room somewhere and it's like, wow, this is nicer than where I actually live.
Well, it's a resort. It should be, so at least
it should be. Well, it's like, hey, we have 2 sinks in the bathroom. Amazing.
We'll definitely continue to support the event and we definitely encourage people to get out there. It's a full few days of gaming. You can be as casual or as competitive as you want, but I think it's built around just kind of that gaming resort atmosphere. I mean, that's about the only way to describe it.
Yeah, and what people don't realize about, especially an event like Battlehaven, is none of it's done for profit. This is all about enhancing some of the things that this show stands for in terms of a community, a group of people getting together with shared interests and a common desire for fun in a hobby that is all about bringing people together physically. You don't need to go to a place like this if you want to play games online. You can always find a game online. This is about being there with people, building relationships. I mean, this is my 3rd Battlehaven. Some of the people there I've seen there every year, and it's one of the times that we actually get together and see each other and kind of continue that relationship in a way that's more than just vague Facebook friendery. So I really think that this is a fantastic event. We don't know when the next one's going to come up. I would keep your ears open to this space, and I'll let you guys know any updates as they happen.
Well, they continue to make it accessible to people. So if anything we've said appeals to you, keep your eyes and ears peeled, and we'll certainly pass along that info as we have it.
Absolutely, it was my pleasure to be there.
So in the first segment of the show, I might have been a little too dismissive of the fact if I thought that the BAO list, the tops, the ones that place the best, would become a trend or influence the meta a little bit.
We kind of revised some of our initial thoughts to it, and my only point that I thought might have some kind of relevancy is maybe this is just proof that the FAQs are working and that the meta that we're currently in the Wild Wild West. There was arguably, a large spread of factions that were attacking their game plans in sort of asymmetric ways. It wasn't just a horde versus a alpha strike. There was lots of stuff going on across very many lists. And, who's to say that somebody's not going to rock up to the table with, I'm not going to say something extreme like Necrons, but there's probably,
well, say that, man, but Necrons have had a really good winning record recently.
I know, but I don't want to say it.
Dude,
they could do it. You're right.
As someone who has lost to Necrons recently, and I did this.
That sounded like it hurt.
It really, look, I got a friend who plays Necrons and I give him crap all the time, just consistently all the time. So when not that I know that the Necrons can't be good, but I would not have ranked them as something to worry about. But now we've actually seen 5 wins in a row from Necrons coming out of a tournament. And, and that's kind of how you look at a book now is can it win 5 games in a row? If it's not, that it's somehow ranked in some tier mechanism, below that. What's its win rate? What's its loss rate? What round does this codex typically lose its first game in? Is it round 1? Is it round 4 or round 5? That's how you can start kind of building the non-subjective stats of things or whatever. And I would peg the Necrons as an easy 3 wins in a tournament list. Not easy, but you're going to get what I'm saying. I think you'd be safe betting on the Necrons being a 3-win in a 5-round tournament.
That should be their statistical average baseline of wins with a skilled player playing, in their meta.
But maybe Ynnari were their Achilles heel. And now that Ynnari are kind of beat down, we now see, and I'm saying that's the biggest shift. I don't know that was the case, but it could just be the skill of the players or the fact that things have shifted enough to where their units are more effective. But there's been at least 2 tournaments out there where there's been straight 5-win Necron list. There was even one tournament that had 2 Necrons in the top 8.
Wow.
I know that I don't know if that was a throwaway comment you were making, but it set me off.
No, it's it wasn't. And I'll try not to speak too much about Age of Sigmar because I know that's not really what we do here. But there's I guess I'll try to make a corollary to the way that game strikes me right now for competitive play, in that a lot of the top tier lists, we'll say, whether it's Flesh Eater, Courts, or even the Daughters of Cain, some of the builds that are out there right now that are really taking it home regularly in those competitive environments are very susceptible to losing to a relatively, we'll say, common theme list, or what would not be considered a top tier list. And like a gatekeeper list, like I've heard you call them before. So I don't know, maybe 40K is entering an era where some of these lists that you just saw at the BAO may become gatekeeper lists. Maybe we didn't see the absolute top pinnacle of stuff, but stuff like what we did see is going to be lurking out there. And if you're not on your tiptoes with your stratagems and your proper, activations and whatnot, that things can come at you at a different angle that you're not used to, and they can steal a tournament. So players keep playing. Good job.
That's my point. Yeah, continue to innovate. I mean, you're right, and we should praise the fact that there was a variety of lists that are not just internet template builds.
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Look, we spend a lot of time, and if you could shortcut some of that time by borrowing some ideas that are successful from other people, do it. That's why people put it out there.
I'd also argue the opposite. Like, how much of a bummer would it kind of been if it was just Ynnari or Castellans again? You know what I mean? Everyone just be kind of shrugging their shoulders and going, yeah, that's what we thought, and then move along.
Yeah. So I guess to your point, the FAQs are definitely going to have influenced things in what are seemingly a positive way, because it has provoked or enforced variety.
Yeah. I like that you can insert some new predators into the ecosystem and it has rippling effects. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's a real good point. It remains to be seen. Seen a lot of lists come about, like the flyer stuff. I as a player of flyers or whatever, I was hoping this wasn't the case, but I really thought that we were going to see fewer and fewer flyers. But as it turns out, the flyer foils just aren't, they just aren't out there. At least they aren't bubbling up in the same way that the flyers are still there. So maybe in a situation to where those anti-flyer lists are getting taken out in the early rounds by things that don't have flyers, and so who knows, could be passing like ships in the night.
It's probably based very much on the depth of the tournament. Your local store running a smaller tournament, there's probably the flyer guy, so people are metaing for that, locally, versus they rock up to the BAO and they're thinking, okay, well, am I going to dodge that particular, we'll call that a gatekeeper list, or or, say it starts getting enough wins, then it becomes the top tier. Then you'll start to see people actually taking answers for it, So
I had one of my buddies call me the last week to preach the virtues of the Night Spinner, the Eldar Night Spinner.
Yeah, the indirect fire, man. It's just another thing that can't be seen. It's just going to smack you.
Well, it's another vehicle. You know that Eldar vehicles can be pretty tough. I mean, it's not like not a wave serpent, but I think the list is like 6 or 7 flyers, some wave serpents, and a couple of Night Spinners. Like the list is brutal.
Yeah.
Largely because you can make them difficult to hit, and then you've got this direct fire. The Night Spinner's indirect, it's damage too.
It's probably the same argument as mortars in the Loyal 32, right? Same to similar function. Maybe not as much of a screen function, but you don't need to screen it itself or screen other items because your army is innately mobile. Then that gives you the freedom of movement with that model to do either camp objectives or be out of line of sight completely and still get some decent effect out of it, like 60-inch range or something.
It's 48-inch range, plus it can, I mean, the threat range is pretty obnoxious, but it's heavy 2d6, so it's a little streaky, and this is, I think maybe why, it doesn't always play out, but it's heavy 2d6, strength 7, AP 0, damage 2. If you roll a 6+ with his weapon to wound, then it's resolved at AP neg 4.
Good. I mean, the only randomness to it's the 2d6, but let's be honest, what's worst case scenario? Couple turns in a tournament, you roll a 3, but the rest of the turns, you're going to have those other swing turns where you're hitting a 10, you're hitting 11, 12. So, I mean, obviously it'll be a feel badsy the moment you need 12 and you roll the 3, but you can't look at it that way.
Well, if you're relying, on your Night Spinner to do all that work for you, if your 6 or 7 flyers have not done the work for you, but I think it's a way because not every army has the indirect fire. And if you can park something outside of, behind somewhere and utilize those lanes of fire, then you might be able to have that unit exist fairly deep, in the game turns.
Well, and you solve your own problem too, because you're not taking just one, right? So now we're really talking like 46 if you need to really average it out to multiple vehicles. So sorry for all you people out there who rolled snake eyes for both of them in one turn and were looking at me like,
I think like one of the secret sauces for this is just how good it is against stuff like intercessors that love to hide out in the back holding objectives, and the fact that it does 2 damage. It just the ability to clear out, because you're never going to run across a Primaris unit of more than 5 dudes. Being able to reliably kill those when in a 3-round tournament you have a pretty good shot of hitting a Space Marine, but in a 5 or a 6 round you're definitely going to hit at least one.
Well, yeah, I mean, clearly you rock up to a table with web spinners and you see a 2-wound army across the table. You start licking your chops and just thinking it's going to be a pretty good day.
It's going to be
Let me go get this guy a beer real quick.
The Night Spinner is 135 points.
That's cheap as chips, man.
The Doom or the Doom Spinner or whatever the weapon is called is 0. So you're basically only paying for the shuriken catapult or whatever that you stick on that thing. This thing can't be more than 150, 160 points maxed out.
Right. And so what is it? Okay, not to be. I don't know the place it fills in the list that it's currently in. Like what came out to put that in, or is this a completely new build due to Yunari sort of?
It's a new build.
ending?
You're basically you're not spending any points on Dark Reapers, and Dark Reapers, 10 Dark Reapers would be 3 of these things.
So if you're not shooting twice and doing the just oppressive amounts of damage, now you've got something that's far harder to actually physically remove and still chipping. That seems good.
If you're on the other side of it, if you were the Shining Spears side, you replace the Shining Spears with these, and because the Shining Spears could no longer get the soul burst that lets them just get super obnoxious.
Right.
So again, this is. People have been having success with it. I had previously written off the Night Spinner because of these other things, but being able to fire indirect, being an Eldar tank, and being able to bring in what I've seen some people do is they take what's the Drukhari plane, the one that's really good at chewing up troops,
the Void bomber or something like that. I don't remember. I know what you're talking about.
The other one or whatever. They'll take a air wing of that opens up the Vect, the Cabal of Blackheart to get the Vect stratagem. Then they'll take a bunch of the Eldar flyers, either whether it be Hemlocks or Crimson Hunters, and then you've got this really impressive Air Force, and then you've got these really beefy tanks that in the ITC missions, like you can use a Wave Serpent as an engineer or whatever. So it's just kind of floating around, scoring points, bebopping around. It may not be doing a ton of damage, but people aren't really killing it either because they can't devote any fire to it because they've got to kill the planes. And, one Wave Serpent could effectively soak an entire army's worth of shots. So they're basically never killing it. And then you're bombing people with these Night Spinners. I think it's pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. The Eldar book in general has always had a wealth of options to it. I mean, obviously competitively minded people went through and optimized it for an Eldari build to get the best out of the mobility and the shooting. And now that that's sort of changed, I mean, they've evaluated strategy. I mean, there's a lot more tools to the, average player at this point in 40K writ large. There's a lot more gimmicks and the one trick ponies out there. People have seen other things that other lists have done by, because what are we, almost a full year out from when they did Eldar? I mean, at some point. So I guess what I'm saying is the skill level of Eldar players, even though it was previously more focused around Ynnari, is when now that they're going back and refining what their lists are going to do in a new build, they're looking at the other options and they're seeing gold where previously they didn't need to because they had all the additional boons from being Ynnari. So I know I talked to you the other day because I picked up a bunch of Wraithguard, 15 of them for super cheap, and because I'm in love with the Ghost Glaives and I'm just trying to break. Me personally, and it's probably not going to really. You heard it here first, folks. I'm breaking the game open with Wraithguard. But, I'm looking at...
go on.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the Iandid stuff, and I'm looking at the, Citronome or whatever that doubles your attacks. And then I'm looking at some of the stuff out of Vigilus, right? Because when's the last time anyone looked at Eldar and thought about any of the Vigilus out there? There's some sneaky little things you can do with Eldar that might get you a sucker punch, in a game. And it could become a gatekeeper out there if you know what you're doing. You, like you said, continue to innovate. So I think that's what you're really seeing right now is that there's so many options in the Eldar book to begin with. Maybe somebody's going to math out that Oathway and the 6-up Invulnerable is secretly the best when you go vehicle heavy rather than doing the -1 to hit and stacking it and just to try to protect your little 15 Rangers. I don't know what the options are. But it
could be.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
With Flyers being as strong as they still are, again, I was wrong. Now with my Imperial list, I'm kind of deciding how many Vultures do I want in the list, and I think I settled on 2. And I'm kind of waffling. Do I even want to in the ATC side now, and also now with Castellans not being as prevalent as they were, do I even want to pack stuff that deals with heavy armor, like toughness 7 or 8?
This is going to be so off topic, but it's slightly relevant. I hope people out there are not chasing the meta to go heavy armor or heavy flyers. I hope they're just sort of doing what they have, because I think upcoming is all the Sisters stuff. Obviously, stuff got spoiled.
Oh,
but
flamers.
I think you're going to see them flamers driving up and hitting them flyers, and you're going to see all the repressors or all the multis and stuff jumping out of rhinos. Man, it's going to be a new era.
Well, I get it.
That's super awesome.
See, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to take to a tournament in 20 days. That's what I'm figuring out. Dealing with what the stuff is now, and can I take something that is just hail of bullets, just a hail of strength 5 and strength 6 bullets,
3 riptides,
and what do I think I can do with it?
Yeah.
Can I win that kind of? Can I go 5 games undefeated with that?
I wish you well, but I hope that you play people who have really dynamic stuff and do stuff that you've never seen before.
Well, see, that's the kind of stuff that a lot of bullets can normally dig your way out of.
Right. Sometimes all the cute tricks in the world don't save you from just a face punch. So,
well, just even 1,000 pinpricks, you've got a bunch of stuff hiding over there, or I'm just going to throw all these strength 5. I know I hit on 4s with very limited capacity to reroll, but here it comes.
If you've got a list right now, and this is just me speaking from limited experience in the current environment, it seems like if you have a list that can take down Morty and Magnus still, which I know is not really a thing, but if you can do it in a way that doesn't depend on either super volume with no AP or limited shots with high AP and massive wounds, if there's a middle ground there and you've got a weight of fire that splits the difference, I think you'll have competitive games all the time. But if you skew yourself as a shooting army one way or the other, there's probably a gatekeeper out there that you don't want to see.
That's a good point. I mean, I think you do have to plan for fighting those things. I mean, heck, a buddy of mine's been getting some success from Magnus. I'm like, well, does Magnus just die first every round? He's like, sometimes no,
And yeah, this is terrain is your friend. Plus, you got Aramon usually, and there's quality stuff going on right now. I'm telling you, people should just not click on the list and Control C, Control V. They should really go pull their books open or their army builders and challenge themselves. And then look at your stratagems over and over again. Yeah.
I think things like 3 Gallants may come back into fashion.
3 Gallants is still 3 bully units on the table that just really push forward and cause problems for people. And if you can't react to it, then you're going to have a rough time.
Yeah, things like the Death Grip too can still catch people. I mean, there's things, and of course, we talk about the Gene Stealer cults. I expected a little bit better of a Gene Stealer cult showing at some of these tournaments. I think that's more of it. The models have to catch up, and it's a total new way of playing for some people. So it's
obviously everyone's familiar with the Rocksaw builds now and basing your army around a 7-inch charge to with Rocksaws. But I think that there's probably some other builds out there that are good as well. I mean, I guess I could probably say Aberrants still seem good to me, and everyone seems to poo-poo those. But I mean, once again, somebody brings them and gets them into combat with you, and you weren't expecting it, or you couldn't take them down in time. You're going to have a rough day with all those rock hammers.
Yeah, where they double the wounds or something that they do, double the damage?
Yeah, they've got some stratagems to hit extra hard.
Yeah.
So
I
think
the
rest of the list is still, I think what you're talking about, like people are still having to get caught up with the models.
So to bring it all home, to bring what I've learned, what we're kind of talking about here is that assassins are awesome, and I'm going to throw one in my Imperial list. And I think I'm going to rely on, if I do pack any like heavy guns, it's probably going to be like on last cannons firing out of the back of a Stormlord. And then just otherwise, and 20 models can fire out of the back of the Stormlord. It can hold 40. So in certain situations, you'd be like, well, okay, these 10 sniper rifles are going to fire, and then certain situations, it's, these last guns or last cannons are going to fire.
Yeah.
You got options.
It definitely attacks, the game from an asymmetric way. It's not your typical, couple tac squads doing their thing with a couple of, it presents unorthodox problems, I think, that not every list is going to be able to account for. So, but no, I think you'll be successful. I think you'll get how many rounds is it, Paul? 5. I think you should be aiming for a 4 win. I think that you should pull 4 out of that.
I'm gonna claw and scrape, try to get that 5th, but we'll see. I think but that's what I'm leaning toward now. I'm leaning towards the Stormlord and 2 Vultures, and then some mixture of things in between, or some that will live in the Stormlord, and then 9 Ogryn just to run around. I don't know.
Yeah, they're your bully unit.
Yeah.
So while you're punching somebody in the stomach with Bulgrin, everyone else is just kind of doing work and wrecking stuff.
It's very difficult to get the buffs on the Vultures, because you don't get any of the regiment traits. You've really got to get the officer of the fleet, and so you got to put things in harm's way. So whatever, that's kind of the learning curve of the list for me is figuring out when to jump things out, how to stack things up, and it's been fun to test, and I think I'm just about there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's good. That's you're saying the crux of the issue is every game's going to boil down to when you sacrifice certain pawns.
That's it. That's how you say it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Let's read some reviews. We got this initiative we have going right now is you leave a 5-star review with some discretion. We read it online during the show. And got a good one here. Chris, you'll like this one.
Ooh, lay it on me.
Yeah, well, he's been playing 40k since 3rd edition. Took a break during 7th and getting back into 8th. And that basically life is kind of caught up and juggling the family and responsibilities of getting older and stuff. This show and shows like it help keep him in the community, help make him feel like he's still got his ear to the ground with this kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
What he does say is he has one request. He feels like we don't discuss Blood Angels enough.
Well, I'd like to respond directly to this guy's feedback with a 2,000-word summary that I have written. No, I'm kidding. Well, I actually have a 2,000-word summary on one of the new 30k Blood Angel units written. I would recommend checking that out on Frontline Gaming if you're interested.
He says, well, we should try to figure out a way to work Blood Angels in to every show in some capacity, and there's a beer in our future if we do. So, you know what? That's all the incentive I need. And there some people that also say they appreciate the hobby segment. I will endeavor. I've actually, I haven't painted as much as I wanted to recently. And then what I'm painting and what I'm learning and what I'm trying, work their way into the finishing move segments. And so now that I'm things are starting to get back to normal for me, I said I just painted those 20 ghouls and 10 Ogren, and then but I was stuck kind of painting just that stuff for Adepticon, which was, it was like 5,000 points of everything that was the same color. And I did learn a lot in that whole way, but I didn't know if y'all just want to talk about how to make brown and blue look good, for 6 weeks. But don't worry, more stuff's coming.
Yeah, if you want to do a little hobby, whatever, I'm glad to talk about some stuff I'm working on, a little couple of pro tips I can give at the end there, but continue with the reviews.
One guy says that Planet broke, the guard did not, and appreciates the podcast. One guy says that I touched him right in his 40k heart. And to keep up the good work for
grim dark place.
So those are the ones I'll read for now. But yeah, please keep them coming. Leaving 5-star reviews, or you don't necessarily have to say something in the comments, but even just clicking 5-star or leaving the highest category review wherever you listen to us. Those were from iTunes, is one of the ways that people find us and continue to reach new audience with the show. And we really appreciate anybody that listens, but especially folks that take the time to do that. It means a whole lot to us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So, Josh, you got a hobby tip for us?
Yeah. And this is going to be really obvious and not really revolutionary to anybody, but so I feel like there's a lot of people out there who are probably in the same boat as me, and they've got just like a bunch of, maybe intercessors or something that they've been picking up, because the half of every box for the last year has had some sort of Primaris in it. And I'm just doing like I said, a lot of narrative stuff lately, been building for local stuff here, and it's just traveled with me as the amount of stuff I brought. But I've been doing a lot of helmetless heads. Of course, everyone's, one of their favorite things is painting skin and eyes. And I've just realized that I'm at the age where I can't physically see the eyes that I'm painting. And I'm following you, and I'm following like guys like Darren Latham online, and I'm looking at them, painting eyes on models. And not only has the hobby progressed from doing the line of white with the dot of black, but now there's this cool trend of trying to put a dot of white inside the dot of black to give like a little reflection. I'm not saying I'm that cute, but I will say that I've had to rely on my tools more than ever than my skills. And what I mean by that is I had to go down to Staples, and I had to buy myself the little magnifying glass with a ring bulb around it. And I attach all my heads separately to little, skewers with some blue tack. And I'm in there painting my eyes and my tongues and all that kind of stuff. And I'm getting pretty decent results out of it. But then something else that made a huge difference for me was just my quality of brushes. I don't have any brand affiliation. I'll use whatever I have on hand. But I, not too long ago, broke down and actually bought some Winsor Newton Series 7s. And I was using other brand Kolinsky Sable, like scale color stuff, and nice long sharp points, efficient brushes that looked like they, I thought they would be great, but the well of the brush wasn't holding paint correctly for me. I water my paints down, relatively speaking, decent painter, I would say, not an expert, never won a Golden Demon, never really made a first cut.
Too. So, you can paint.
Yeah. So, I get around a little bit, but I guess what I'm saying is I switched to instead of a smaller brush to try to get that extra little bit of reach in there, I switched to a bigger brush. And I like just a Winsor Newton size 0. I'm not a triple aught. I'm not a double aught. I'm just a 0, or even I bet I could do it with a 1 if I owned one, because it was holding the paint better. And I was getting lots of instances previously where I would touch the model with the tip of the brush, make the correct brush stroke, and not leave paint behind. It was drying in the well of the brush.
That is, you question life. You question so many choices you've made that led you up to this point about how is this paint not coming off this brush, and you've brushed it on this model 20 times.
Yeah, I'm literally speechless because it's just so frustrating. You're like, why didn't this implement has one function and it's not doing its one function? But no, so I don't know if I'm probably not telling a lot of people anything new out there, but if you've got, I think they're on Amazon, they range from maybe $12 to $20, whatever your seller is on eBay, or wherever your source is for stuff. But if you're really trying to get into that next level of detail work on the faces of your models, so you're really trying to don't sell yourself short that you're not able to accomplish something. You may be actually physically limited by some of the implements you're using. So don't be afraid to get out of the Hobby Lobby, Michael's, availability and expand your horizons and get some stuff that's not locally available, because it's it's been really good for me.
That is a good
tip out there.
Yeah, letting the tools do a little heavy lifting for you is you need it. Tips from some of the great painters. They say faces and bases. You get those faces looking good, then and the bases, then your model people will be very forgiving about what they think about your model.
Yeah, no, I'm spending the preponderance of the time on a few of the models' faces, like you're saying, and then everything else is going to be airbrush, wash, highlight, edge highlight, and then base. And my bases are simple. I do the Vallejo pumice over whatever the base is with maybe some cork, black, hit it with whatever my colors are. I do like a 3-color highlight with not really any blend. Then I throw some pigments on there. I use any pigment that, company I have laying around that matches the sort of mid-tone that I use. And then I dump an oil wash on there to seal it all real good. And the oil wash usually has... Well, the pigments all get fixed with like a odorless mineral spirit, which is basically like turpentine, I guess. I'm not an expert. Don't lambast me in the comments. But then my oil washes is just a little bit of Winsor Newton oil paint with once again like some odorless white spirits, and that really takes forever to dry, and it'll stink up your house. Don't do it around your loved ones. Do it outside or not outside. Do it in a place with good ventilation where you're in good environment, and that seals everything. But yeah, so it sounds like a lot of work, but I lay them out on a big paint stick, and I can probably bang down 30 base. I could base my whole army, and then attach the models to it, and it's way faster. Yeah,
that's cool. That's cool, man. Thanks for the tip. I'll wrap us up with talking about Kill Team Elites briefly. I had the opportunity to play Kill Team Elites when it came out. Again, we missed a week last week, but I enjoyed it. The expansion. Now we went right to it. Like my list was a Wraith Guard and a bunch of Howling Banshees. That's the first time I played Howling Banshees in 10 years, maybe. Might be 10 years, but happy to get them on the table. I think if we're I to change my list, it would be I'd probably have 2 Howling Banshees and a couple of Striking Scorpions, actually, and then the Wraith Guard. The Wraith Guard did actually perform pretty well. And then I played against a guy. He had a Terminator with a Thunderhammer Storm Shield, and then and then regular Space Marine. So he didn't really go deep into the elites. For him, but whereas I played the Eldar with all elites, I enjoyed it. The game, it didn't feel like it unbalanced the game at all. The game flowed, it played the exact same way, just with the elites in there, and I really enjoyed it. Kill Team is extremely fun. I enjoy it. I deal with people all the time that are like, how do I even get into this hobby? And I don't necessarily consider Kill Team a gateway drug, as it were. I think it's its own experience, but for people that say, man, I don't see myself ever collecting 50 models. Like, okay, cool. Well, here's a way to enjoy the lore and the feel of the game with 10 models.
So for guys like me who were not in the country when Kill Team came out and really never in an environment where it picked up, I understand the gist of it. I understand the many iterations, but now we're in the elites version of it. So have they rebalanced the unit stats as the elites to power them appropriately for the game, or do they handle it with points? Or are you like 1 Wraith Guard and 2 Banshees, and the guy who's taken predominantly troops is still at like 10 Marines or 8 Marines or something like that? Like how did it work?
Yeah, if he had not taken the Terminator, which was 40 points or something, then he would have greatly outnumbered me. So it's a combination of points. And then, but with Kill Team, you're supposed to use the command roster. Now, we don't necessarily use that in every time we load up, but, the command roster is, say, 200 points. And then you whittle your list down to 100 points when you go and fight somebody else. So you get some customization around what you think they're going to take, versus what you're going to take, and, and other things. But then the game plays out differently. The game plays out in a very much you activate versus and then I activate one singular model at a time.
So to go back to what you were saying earlier, though, it's not a very close approximation of the actual 8th edition. It's just using elites. Yeah. Like it's not a true introduction to 40k per se. It shares mechanics and it shares some similarities, but it's balanced at a much smaller model.
It but the way the game plays is what balances it more than the stats. So there's the way the game plays is that when I go to move a model, during the movement, I move my stuff, and the charge phase is in the movement phase. And then if you fail your charge, you actually still move. You're out there in the middle of, you could be out there completely exposed to get shot by somebody who activates in their shooting phase. So in the shooting phase, you activate, like I'll activate a model, then you'll activate a model, and then vice versa. Okay. Or we switch off. And so the way the game actually manifests itself is everyone gets to play, so there's not a situation of where I run forward with 5 handled banshees and assault your 8 guys and you pick up your models. That's not how it works. You got an opportunity to interact at almost every step of the game, and so there's a balancing factor in that, because you can remove it's not necessarily easy, but every interaction has the ability to remove a model from the table, no matter how tough it is.
So let me ask a question that's similar, but in another way. How have they incentivized players to want to break into the elite selections rather than just be comfortable with what they've already got? Have they done that in a way?
There are new stratagems. There's new things in the book. Yes, but it's just an addition. It's not necessarily something that's going to draw you to it, I don't think, by itself, unless you're somebody like me who just really enjoyed playing with, 4 or 5 handling banshees.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be the artistic, we'll say, minded folks who just want to use cool models and have a narrative like smash down. But then there's also that guy that creeps in the store in his trench coat, and he pulls out his, busted, X version of, some army. So
to me, this particular expansion just seemed like a natural progression, and I did not feel like it was unbalanced at all. I felt like it was just like, with having all things being equal, this is just something you could sit down and use or not use, and it would not. You could use it or not use it, and it wouldn't affect what your outcome at a Kill Team tournament would be or anything like that.
So Thanos did a great job designing Kill Team. It's perfectly balanced in every way. That's good news. Yeah,
it seemed like it. Now the commanders, not everyone plays with the commanders. You could also, there's a way to incorporate some HQs into your list. Those are for typically larger point games, as I understand it, and I don't know people that use them on the regular, and I don't think they've become common. But to me, the elites seem like they just fit right in there, and there should be no hesitation including them or allowing them to be used in your play group.
Well, great thanks for walking me through that. I know we dragged that out probably a little bit longer than you thought we would, but I actually had some real questions about it. So
no, it's cool. It's fun. I mean, and the fact that my opponent, he was able to, he was taking his regular old Space Marines and the generic troops. And I was able to include the elites, and we had to play a naturally progressed game. And again, that's anyway, I felt good about it, and can't wait to play some more.
Well, I'll be listening when you tell us about it.
Well, guys, thanks for joining me tonight. Sorry to everybody for missing that week. We'll endeavor to make it up to you. Maybe we'll try to get a special guest or something on the show coming up soon. I don't have anyone in mind, but I'll try.
I'm not the special guest.
I don't want to be the one to tell you this.
I'm the mean average guest. Throwback guest.
You know what, Josh? We're going to have you on next week.
Sounds good. Can't wait to hear about your 4 wins.
Well, that's coming up towards the end of June.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to be testing along the way, and thankfully my playtest group kind of puts me through the paces. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that's something I need to do, is find a group around here, because I'm now walking distance to Nova. I know I've got the summer to prep, but I need to get an army selection, and I need to start practicing. So
heck yeah. Well, Chris, Josh, see y'all next week.
Take care. It's been good. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
I am Groot.